This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you all please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
everyone for being here. And it seems like a long time. Approval of minutes from our regular meeting of March 24th, 2026. And a second, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. On to announcements. I have a couple already listed on our agenda. We need to acknowledge the signing of the Kelty Tappy Agreement project, and we had approved all of that at the last meeting, so now it's a matter of the signing, and I'm going to do that tonight.
You can do it if you want to right
Okay.
now. And I'll give one, of course, you'll keep one for Carol, and I'll get one to the architect. I'll take this one.
Thank you.
You can keep that. Thank you.
Next, we're going to acknowledge the receipt of the TIF manager report. It's April 15th. The report was submitted to DLGF via Gateway by Carol on March 28th. So that's just a formality to acknowledge that that has been submitted, and we are aware of that. Thank you to Shannon for our first quarter overtime report for the year. And let's see, I'm happy to say that I found someone to the vacancy in our BZA. So John Bender, who lives in the community and has helped with some voting and those kind of things, representing the Democrat Party. So he's very willing to yay, and he's formally taken that on, and so that is an appointment by council president. So I'm announcing that tonight, and then email, so you can let him know when the paperwork will be ready for him to come in and sign and do his oath.
Okay, is he filling the term from someone else?
Yes, Dave Dunn.
Okay.
Dave had served since 2007, and after the first of the year, he decided that he wanted to leave that position. Okay, anyone else have any other announcements?
I attended the STAR team meeting. It's been a few weeks ago now, and there are a lot of things that they're planning, some of their usual and customary, and then they're working also to plan some additional flowers and just beautification of the courthouse and celebration of the 250th. And so it was a productive meeting, and they asked if it was appropriate to come to us for funds for this year as they think about some of their additional responsibilities. And so I encouraged them to put a plan together and send it. And unless I missed it, I haven't received it yet, but I'll share that out when I do. But so then the upcoming event is the Albion that kind of kicks off their event for the year. So, but I was encouraged to hear there's some new ideas that they're floating, and then also just the work that they're doing with that 250th celebration for the 4th of July weekend. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any announcements? Okay, we will move on to any open discussion. The only thing I have is that we did receive an email recently that the State Road 9 closure update now will be to the week of April 27th. We had been told the 13th most recent, and so I appreciate you letting us know when that when those come through, because there are people that ask, I believe.
They were putting survey markers out today
Okay,
because they put some in my yard.
we're getting closer then. Any other open discussion? All right, we will move on to our department head reports. Casey, Parks and Cemetery.
Yes, thank you. Cemetery, crews, back, got most mowing first round downtown lots and picked up all the sticks and stones and, the next couple of weeks we get the right weather. We have about 13 grades to fill and seed, and hopefully we have that completed before Memorial Weekend. That's our goal for the first year, for the first, set of grades. So we'll be working on that. Other than that, do you have any questions on the cemetery?
All your positions are full now.
Yes.
Sorry, you have something.
I just had no question.
Okay,
Uh,
Park,
Yep, for the park. The camera system, hopefully by the next meeting, depending on, getting fiber in, we've got all the electrical in and the boxes are in and a few cameras, but we're waiting on, getting the rest of the fiber in. We're gonna start that this week, depending on weather, knifing the rest of the, fiber in, so, yeah. Things we're should be mid-May or beginning May, hopefully. I'll let you guys know. I'll work with Scott on getting everything set up. I'm sure he's gonna have a set, or I'll be able to log in and, yeah, we'll work with each other on, there's so many different ways you can use it, so, yeah, there'll be more forthcoming on that, so. I'm gonna skip the Christmas lights and come back to that. I got the fireworks. I sent you guys the donation list. I think we're faring pretty well so far. I think we're pushing, I think it was like $7,000. I guess I didn't look.
78, or I thought it was more than that. That's it.
Oh, was it? Yeah. They're coming in daily, so they're
66.
66.50. So, yeah. Other than that, we got the 2 torches up today, thanks to Corey. Got them on, 2 light poles one on South Main and one on, West Main. We got the American flag coming here next couple weeks. It's gonna be, it's almost done. We got pictures of it. I'll be putting that up. And then I got permission from the, county commissioners to work with, the maintenance, county maintenance guy to, courthouse maintenance to, put the torch and the flag, or the torch on the county lawn, where there's no irrigation, close to the, fountain where there's a plug-in, so it'll be lit. We'll have, hopefully a great, committee report, at the next meeting, hopefully more exciting news. We have a lot of pending grants. We've been through, I think, 3 or 4 interviews in the last month. Yeah, a lot of things in motion. So, anything besides the Christmas decoration you guys have a question on? And then I think, is that on a separate agenda item? No, that's on my report.
I have it as an action item.
Yeah. A lot going on. Any questions before we move forward with that?
It looks like that controlled burn was.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
something
that,
else. That was massive.
Bob, the fire department was there. We're actually getting paid back by the state, by the DNR. I think most of it, Carol. Yeah, I think most of it. I haven't got the bill yet from the vendor that did it, so I need to get that. So, yeah. And then we'll have a 3-year plan coming up. It'll be thirds now after initial one, so I'm excited to see it. We actually put the Martin houses up the week after, and the Martins are definitely here, so, yeah. If there's no other questions, we'll go into the, Christmas decorations.
I see,
Oh,
you
go
got
ahead.
the price comparison thing.
Yeah.
But you didn't enclose the quotes for the Christmas decorations. Do you guys have that?
He's asking for permission to get quotes
Oh, for the Christmas lights?
for the Christmas lights?
No, he's already got them.
They didn't come scanned to?
Well, I have the price comparison sheet, but I don't have any of the 3 people that you quoted quote.
Really? Which,
Unless you guys are seeing it and I'm not.
well, I've got them right here,
Okay.
but,
It's there, it's in the email, Chris. Sorry, I was looking.
Yeah,
Which tab is it on?
It'd be the first email that he sent, and he sent 6 reports. It'd be the 3rd report he sent, titled Price Comparison.
Right, that's just the price comparison. I'm looking for the quote.
Oh, the quotes themselves.
Right,
well, that's, I had them scanned in there, you know,
it's fine.
yeah, I do have them right here. And then,
But we'll just pass them around.
Yeah.
Lacey.
so, Herman's Christmas Land's down at, Pearston, they're the ones that actually made the torch and the steel torches and the American flag, and then the American 250 committee, the big flag that's gonna be floating around, they actually made that. While I was down there talking about the, flags, they had these, rope Christmas lights that, I had thought about getting quotes on, and then GP Designs down at Marion, they kind of work together, and have similar, Christmas decorations, and we have bought a lot of our Christmas decorations from GP Designs, but most of them have garland on them, and they're a lot bigger and heavier. If you've been to Ligonier and Churubusco, and I think it might be, Warsaw, they have the blue and different, or I think it's white, blue, they're the rope lights, snowflakes, bells of holly, and different ornaments. I think they look, very neat, and they're probably about half price, and they're a lot smaller.
I think Garrett has some of them
Garrett,
too.
yeah, so a lot, and I forget, there was another one he was working with, doing some custom work, but it was a lot more expensive, to do that. So, and looking at our other old decorations, sorting them out, and, there's 48, I think, 48 or 40, I forget what I put on there, poles, and we're gonna have to go to every one of them, and we're gonna not do the banners. The street department's gonna do the banners. We're gonna give, our best ones to them. Because the banners will be on the right side and the decorations will be on the left side. And we're gonna fill the gaps and that we had our banners with the rope lights. And I'm gonna start from Dairy Queen, and every pole that has electric, we're gonna redo everything. And it's gonna take some time, and it is gonna be amazing. With our new lights downtown, there's 31 of them, I believe. It's got the LED garland, and now adding these. I think for the next 15, 20 years, or after we get these redone, we're gonna be solid. So, and if we choose either one of them, and they're only, I think, $56 difference. Both of these companies, yeah, we've done business with and are great.
It's nice to have somebody so close.
Yeah, and even Marion's closer. I mean,
Well, even if you had a problem, I'm sure they do repairs too.
yeah, absolutely, yep. So, with that said, I've sent some pictures in the past in my reports. I should have sent some more pictures of them, but there are a few in these magazines. The Christmas Land doesn't have a magazine per se. It has a website, or Facebook doesn't really put a lot on there. But I've had some in my reports, the different ones, so. Yeah, a total of 25. And my original budget was I think we budgeted 12 or 14,000, so we're not gonna use it all if we do this, so. I'm gonna recommend, I was initially gonna split it up, but I'm not gonna do that because there's a few I wanted from GP. I'm not gonna split it because I'd had to redo it all. So, yeah. I'm gonna recommend Herman's Christmas Land for the $7,810 for 25 rope light LED Christmas decorations. And I can pass these around.
Are the rope lights like this picture?
Yeah. Should be some my last report or.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if those were rope lights or.
Yeah, them are.
The rope lights are very vivid. I think Garrett has the snowflakes.
Yeah, I was gonna do
Because
a mixture of blue
I was
and white.
commenting on them last year. How nice they look.
Ligonier did some custom ones and they're like $700 a piece. And they're a little bit bigger and they were very nice. And we're just gonna get a smaller version of them. But I had some pictures. I can pass this around.
Is anybody ready to make a motion, or do we want to look at more pictures?
Yeah,
And
those are pretty. I saw those in Garrett.
They come in all colors.
What size are these snowflakes that they're quoting at $485?
36s, 40, I think they're 36 and 40.
$48?
Yeah. There's the flag that we're gonna get. There's the flag we're gonna get. That's the flag we're gonna put on the fireplace. I think I had that in my report one time.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. That's really cool.
Casey, are these gonna be as big as our ones that we currently have?
No,
They're gonna be
a
smaller?
little bit smaller. Some of them trees are 5 foot. And some of the stockings are 7 foot. They're big, they're heavy. And, you know, I have a plan to either sell them, I know the, Windmill Museum takes donations, we've done that before, or just sell some of the bigger, heavier. And then there's an option that, you know, if we ever put up more electricals, we can have rope lights put on, you know, some of the other ones, or, yeah. Because the metal is the main thing, and the design's there. So, but we have a lot of old decorations, a lot of them.
Amazing they were that close.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not really the same thing.
Chris, they actually, Herman's actually sells to GP.
Right, but I didn't think they looked like the same things.
The descriptions are.
Yeah, the descriptions aren't, they're not.
always-
And it's really hard, even that third quote, he was calling and asking how I compared, and it's like, you can't. I mean, they're custom, basically.
I'd say the third quote was a little high.
Yeah, I did my best.
Does anybody want to see this?
Yeah, sorry about that. I wish I'd known that. I just,
I didn't think it was that big a deal, otherwise I'd have loved you about it.
It was the hit of a button. I thought it scanned, I didn't know one page only scanned.
The sand was pretty cool.
I didn't get a sand, I got, holly,
The bells, you
the
get the
the
bells.
bells.
These look big though, Casey.
Yeah, some of them are very deceiving. And Zane knows, being in the bucket truck, sometimes it's a challenge,
Exactly.
some of the bigger ones.
Yeah, but I always liked the bigger ones better than what Busco had, because I felt like Busco had little tiny ones you could hardly.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a mixture.
So I'd rather err on the bigger side.
Yeah.
Just because I think it looks a little nicer than Busco's.
Well, they're so far up and they're so far up there, they have to be a little bigger.
Yeah, so basically, the banners, we're gonna be getting rid of the banners, and then it won't be every other one, but it might be every third one will be a rope light. If that, it might be spread out even more, depending on where it's at, especially out at Northridge. There'll probably be a lot more smaller ones at Northridge, because that's where the heavy wind is. So you gotta, like around the courthouse, it's not as windy, and we know where the wind really hits.
They really don't have hardly anything on their website because they must need some marketing. Because they only have about, I don't know, 6 pictures on there.
Herman's,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's only like 6 pictures of lighted stuff on there.
He didn't want me to take a lot of pictures.
Well, I'm just saying,
like,
he doesn't have very much on here. Maybe there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It says that they've been in business for over 40 years, although I think they were acquired in 2022. But that sentence doesn't really make sense.
Very nice guy.
Is he an old guy? I mean, he's been in business 40 years, he's gotta be.
He's praying.
I'm assuming this business has been there for 40 years.
He's praying.
Someone new has it since 2020. I don't know. Okay,
I'll move to, Zane, are you done? Abby, do you wanna look?
I'm good.
I'll move to approve the Herman's Christmas Land quote at 7810, funded by CDIG, which is no longer what used to be CDIG.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, anything else, Casey?
No, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you, Casey. We'll move on to street and cemetery. Corey.
For the month market cemetery, we had 2 services. And street department, I think we're finally at the end. We only had 1 snow event, so that's good. We're going to need more of those this year. But other than that, we cleaned the job, do some patching, some burns, some sweeping. Got a few things to talk about, but does anybody have any questions on the report?
You've got Fountain downtown delayed started up.
Yep, new construction, we have a bunch of dust and debris in there, and plugging up the new pump. So we just decided to leave the drain plugged up now, and once they're done with the heavy part. I think the pump was like $450 last time.
We
they
went
went.
through many of them homes.
And I'd also like to ask the council's permission to put 3 raised garden boxes at the back of the lot behind the salt dome, unless Casey has a better spot for them. We kind of found a spot today to put back there if we don't want them out there at the park.
For what?
For the Ark Foundation.
Oh,
They can come.
they could grow vegetables and stuff.
Yep, something that's handicap accessible, and Casey and I and a couple other people have been working on trying to find a spot for, probably the last 6 weeks. And it just dawned on me this morning that right there behind the salt dome, it's kind of a area that's pretty flat, and it's paved, and it could be wheelchair accessible, and it's kind of out of the way, not really gonna bother anybody, so. And it's pretty close to a water spigot, so we can have some water if need be. But I'm just seeking permission from the council, see if we can do that, accommodate them.
And I got a spot picked up too, so I don't know which one they built it, so.
I'm assuming that they went through their woodworking thing, they got the raised beds.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the clients will be building those. They go to a wood shop in Huntertown area
They do.
and they'll be building them and, they've asked for a partnership. A lot of their funding is based on billing for work that they can take off site. And so they can't do the same type of project on their facility and bill, and that's where a lot of their funding comes from. So they seek other partnerships, like they've used Augusta Hills for a lot of things, and so they had wondered if there was anything that the town could help them with
But they need to
to
get,
find a location.
it's gonna be time to plant soon.
Well, we've been tossing it around for quite a while. But I see it kind of like the partnership where we're helping the STAR team out with their storage at the old town hall basement.
Where's your spot for the raised bed?
Well, I showed Julissa the other day after a meeting, it would be close to our park barn. Eventually, there's gonna be a camera on there and it's close to water. And the problem that we had in the past, I mean, years and years ago was that there's so many people that go down there, they were messing with the garden, and so.
But they wouldn't be necessarily have any business being up to the park barn.
Yeah, and, it'd be close to mulch pile, it's close to disc golf, but, I mean, there's not hundreds of people around it, and
And it doesn't matter to me whichever spot they pick.
Well, I mean,
I wanna
you
make
guys
sure
just
it's
want us to leave it
okay.
open-ended, that they can use your spot or your spot.
Right. I just didn't want you guys to
okay.
roll
There's
through
three
and
spots.
see 3 garden boxes and go, on here, so.
They have been doing this at the Lutheran Church. I don't know for how long, but that's very limited for wheelchair accessibility.
It is, and water, and the boxes are falling apart, because I live next door. The boxes are in
Mhm.
terrible shape. Just keep in mind that when the boxes need repaired, they're gonna have to get repaired, because wood just doesn't, dirt and water and wood are not gonna be long-term. I don't have an issue with it at all.
I think her hope is to meet with you guys maybe tomorrow. She had a board meeting tonight that she doesn't really have to get their permission. It's just an update because it's a project they've already had going on. They just want to change the location. Thank you. Do you have anything else, Corey?
I do not.
Anybody have any questions for Corey?
No.
Okay, thank you, Corey. We will move on to water wastewater. Terry?
Has the council had a chance to look over the water and wastewater report and have any questions, they answer them? I really only have one item to talk about, is, we pulled a pump at, one of the pumps at White Oaks lift station, and it's down to see what the repair is gonna cost, or if we have to replace one. But I have no numbers of that, what it's gonna cost. at this time.
Has that been a problem? Because I've seen you guys down there multiple times. It just, it's done for now, or?
Well, somebody's there every day, but, no, I think the last time we pulled one was '07, I believe. But we have been putting some, enzymes in there because of, some grease buildup.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
Is it functioning now, or is it done?
We have backup. There's lead lag.
So you just gotta replace your backup? You put the backup in?
Yep.
What's the camera jail sewer vent?
Yeah, the jail's having some issues with some of the odors coming back into the building, and it was, the vents are rusting out. They didn't know it at the time. And they come through some of the interior walls, and it just eliminated, they know where it's at now.
Okay, good.
How much does a replacement pump cost? Any idea? To replace your backup?
No, I don't, not at this time. I'll have them numbers later.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I'm kind of hoping we can rebuild it for under 4,000. But if it's a new one, it could be up to 10. I don't know, I shouldn't even say that.
I was gonna say 10 to 15.
That's a guess.
Is that the only residential lift station pump that you had? Is it there then?
They're all different phases.
They're all different?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some's 3-phase, some's single.
Where was the blowhole repair in the alley? Is that
It'd
by,
be
is that by
East Jefferson
Jefferson?
and East Highland. Pretty much the rental shop.
What? which shop?
Doc's rental.
Oh, got you. Cause there was another hole in the road that looked like a blowhole down there by CSB. I think I texted Corey a picture of it, and I think he put something in it. Didn't you, Corey? Do you remember that one? You know, it's like, there's a hole, and then when you look down there, you don't see anything, you just see a big void.
Right off the alley on
I
Liberty.
think, I think it was right in the alley, between, right where it comes out onto Liberty.
That's a shuttle. There's a shuttle through there.
There was a hole in the road, which I don't know if it got fixed or not.
Oh, yeah. We did it.
Anything else for Terry? Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
We will move on to old business. Having none, the first item on our new business is approval of the special event application for the Channel Lakes Festival, May 29th through June 7th. Starting with the car show on Friday and then ending with the parade on the 7th. Well, actually, the Sunday is the 7th Sunday, maybe, because it says cleanup 7 a.m., 8 a.m. on the 7th. Anyway, all department heads have signed off. Anybody want to speak on that? You probably talked about it at the department head meeting. Did you?
And the special, we didn't talk about it too much.
Okay.
No.
Well, they've all signed off, so Carol, did you get any feedback? Nope. Okay.
I move we approve the special event application for the Channel Lakes Festival.
Thank you.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. And we got an email today. We'll see a bunch more of those in 2 weeks. Item number 2, consideration of proposal for the development in Rolling River Bluffs. We talked a little bit about the ad hoc committee meeting at our last meeting, and so who wants to speak on this topic?
Sure, I can give a little update. As you know, Keith Leatherman and Bob Parrish have submitted a written proposal, and they've met with the ad hoc housing committee a couple of weeks ago. And the proposal is, it has been summarized in writing. I don't know if you wanted me to rehash any of it or not. I can give a brief overview, and it's basically, they're looking to complete Rolling River Bluffs subdivision, which would consist of phase 3 and 4, which is a total of 25 additional more lots compared to the 29 lots that are already completed in sections 1 and 2 already existing. And Keith and his team would provide the legal description of all streets in all 4 sections of the subdivision. They'll designate the utility easements in the final plats of section 3 and 4. They will install 8-inch sanitary sewer in section 3. They'd like the entrance road to be redone when section 3 is completed and the lots are ready to be sold. That's at an approximate $13,000 cost that they're requesting that the town split with them. And then when they get to section 4, it's a more expensive development because there's some greater infrastructure costs. And all they're really asking is that the town would consider partnering to some degree with them, particularly by way of applying for grant opportunities. We don't know what will be available at that time. We were very forthright in indicating that our main grant source is INDOT's CCMG program, which does not fund new roads or underground infrastructure. So we're not sure what kind of grant possibility would be out there at that time, but it would be worth exploring at that time. Those are the main things I think that the proposal was, proposing to do. They would have an investment of about $250,000 approximately, just on section 3 when that's complete. And it equates to a little over $20,000 per lot. That would be his cost that he would have to recover to break even. They're looking at the intended lot price, $35,000 to $40,000, targeting starter home values $280,000 to $300,000, and he had just indicated that the spec home that is going to be proposed to be put up right away would be, I give the price of that email, I forgot the email, was it 284, something in that range. And then what the town would be asked to do as part of this proposal would be to provide legal description of all utility easements in all 4 sections of the subdivision. And then Keith has provided 2 recorded final plats of section 1 and 2 that show the various easements, and he believes that that is enough. He would ask the town to maintain the subdivision roads existing in section 1 and 2 throughout the time frame of the entire development until section 3 and 4 is completed. This intent is that the subdivision looks its best so that they'll have a good shot at selling the homes, in the subdivision that would look presentable. And then, as indicated earlier, he would ask us to split the cost of the $13,000 entrance road. And then replace or improve streetlights, but it's already been indicated at the recent meeting, Corey had indicated that all of those lights in the subdivision have been upgraded to one form or another. They're all working. And in fact, I think there were LED replacements made. And then it was very nonspecific what he was asking for section 4 when he got to that stage. So that's a little in limbo, but again, as a result, that could maybe be, put off, if you will, if the council were willing to partner with them on section 3. Section 4 could be perhaps a subsequent thing. Now, so the two decisions, if you will, that I think are before the council tonight is, number one, what's your reaction to the proposal? Do you like it in entirety? Do you like aspects of it? Is there an intent to try to do something because he's willing, he and his partner, to get into building ASAP, meaning this summer. And so that's one aspect is to, how do you feel about the proposal itself? Then secondly, and maybe this is a case of cart before the horse, Kurt can advise us, but it's the whole idea of the subdivision control ordinance would suggest that, there's a pretty, I gave you the flow chart, it's a pretty formal process now that's involved. That likely, if we ask, the impression I got, and I tried to convey that in the summarized email that I gave you either yesterday or today as to my conversation with Keith, is that it would likely blow it out of the water because they weren't looking for a lot of further administrative red tape. Not that they're asking the town to waive requirements, but they feel they've met everything. And to their point, what I found in what what Keith had submitted to me a while ago through the past months or so, the final plat of section 2, we have the primary plat of the entire subdivision, all sections 1, 2, 3, and 4 were submitted. I've got a copy of what I think is it, and it's circa June 16 of 2000. The final plat was November 28 of 2001. So all of this was kind of occurring 2000 and 2001. So the final plat of section 2, we've got the primary plat of the entire shooting works, I believe we have. The grading and erosion plan of sections 2, 3, and 4 we also have. But yet, it should be noted though, in his proposal, and this will be my last point, work already done, Keith said section 3, he's about 80% done with grading and infrastructure, and there are different things already in place: electric, gas, water, storm sewer, sanitary sewer stuff. The tree and brush have been cleared, junk vehicles removed. Now, for both section 3 and 4, he says the final plat drawings are 90% completed. So something remains to be done, and that, I think that could figure into how you might want to massage the proposal in with the subdivision control ordinance, and in particular in with the recommendation to the plan commission to do whatever the council wishes here. But it could be that maybe we say that his process has gone through a lot of the flow chart already. He's had the meeting with me. He's kind of done the sketch plan, and it's been there, many years apparently in our hands. And so maybe we pick it up at the point of, okay, Keith, you're only 90% complete with the final drawing. Go ahead and complete it. Bring that to plan commission and let them look at it. And then the council can also say, perhaps give its wishes to plan commission. Because Kurt has pointed out, our town attorney, that it is the plan commission that would ultimately make any determination needed as to exempting a project from the normal process of going through the subdivision control ordinance, or not, exempting sections of it, or this, that, or the other. Not the town council. The town council can recommend though, and that would, of course, be very helpful to the development, to the project, And ultimately to the plan commission, if you would be asking the plan commission to, treat it in a certain manner. Kurt has, I believe, indicated that, what we do for one, be careful, we may need to do it again for another down the road. And
What
so,
would he need to be exempt from the SCO for?
Well, for one thing, I see there's a 90-day waiting period. That's a big deal. Between the primary plat application and the decision, because there's public hearings and all kinds of stuff in between.
And there's a whole section 4 that identifies, it's, 30 some pages, maybe, or 20 some pages. But, so there's a lot of rigmarole. It was well thought out. I have to say this zoning ordinance, including subdivision control ordinance, it's really on a, just a really nice plane of the way it's been designed.
It didn't come,
3
3
years.
years.
3 years.
Scott and I sat on the plan commission during that entire
It's
time.
well thought out. There's very, very little that I'm finding that you can't find the answer to, or there are maybe occasional little quirks of, oh wait, it says something here, it says something different here. But again, by and large, it is really a well drafted document. Should serve the town well, as it has been.
So my comment to that is, sitting on the plan commission, how do we deviate from that? I mean, we've had people come in and they're not always happy with the process.
Well, setting him back 90 days.
I
if he
know.
wants to,
I know.
break ground.
Can I ask Kurt a quick question?
Sure.
You say the plan commission is the final decision maker. Did I hear that correctly? I thought we were only recommending to the town council as my tenure of the commission.
The way I understand it, remember, it's a 115-page ordinance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, as Steve said, very, I think, well done, considering and I'm going to answer your question. I'm not trying to avoid it. Sort of have to have some context, right? So it is the process by which this town has determined that a developer, when they come to town, has to, before they get a permit, basically permission to develop in your town, they have to have plans for ingress and egress and pedestrian traffic flow and off-street parking and specifications for sewer and water and streets and on and on and on, right? It's a very well thought out, very nicely done plan for if a developer comes to town, they've got to comply with these things before they get a permit. The town council passed the ordinance and delegated all of that authority to the plan commission to be administered by the zoning administrator, which gives that person a lot of power to make this determination. So long story short is, with a stroke of a pen, they can take that away by repealing the ordinance. If they don't repeal it, though, to legally and to make sure we don't want to follow some sort of, as Steve pointed out, argument that we're not treating similarly situated developers similarly, which is an equal protection clause violation, right? It's a constitutional thing. There is a process, due process, for exempting, waiving, basically saying parts of this ordinance aren't applicable to this particular development. But to do that, the plan commission, according to their process, which I think was well thought out, has to have a hearing. They have to make findings. They have to make specific determinations of why pieces of this aren't applicable to this particular developer. That is, in and of itself, difficult and will take time. But to answer your question directly, the town council can repeal the ordinance tonight if they want, and it's gone. And then we don't have a process anymore. But then we're left with any developer can come in and basically do whatever they want without our ability to regulate them. So that's a dangerous precedent too. So we're playing around with slippery slope. So to answer your question, the way it's passed now, the plan commission has authority. This board can recommend to them that they change it, but to amend the ordinance, it takes town council approval.
Right.
Yep. But to waive particular portions of the SCO, there is a due process mechanism built right into it that says how that happens, and it happens at the plan commission level.
So you're talking waiving, not changing then?
Exempting is a better word maybe, but
Because
yes,
that would have to go back to the council if it was edited.
their written application for the words they use in the plan commission ordinance, modifications or exceptions, has to go through this section 2.5.
The process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is very well done.
And he hasn't done any of that, is that what you're telling me?
Not for phase 3 and 4, correct?
Yeah, it's a little hit or miss on,
And maybe
phase
he
3 and 4,
has,
just the
and-
preliminary looks like.
And that probably would be, so let me just project out my thoughts. You've got you've got all two ends of the spectrum. Repeal it completely and don't have it, keep it and make him comply, or figure out what he's missing and go through the process to exempt him from those parts that you aren't worried about.
I guess my question would be, was that ordinance after his?
I don't know that.
That's the question I would have if I was sitting
Yeah.
on the plan commission anymore. Was that a possibility of grandfathering? Because some of that could have been prior to the ordinance being
Could have
done.
been.
So that's a question that I
haven't thought of or even looked into that, whether or not the process began before this, so he's somehow exempt from it. That would be his argument, right?
Right.
Yeah. And we could get the answer to that, but it'd take a little bit of due diligence.
the dates, basically.
Is there a date on that ordinance?
I didn't bring the thing, I've looked at it, but yeah, it's,
And do you have to go through this process for each phase, or would the fact that he went through it for phases 1 and 2 with the intent of developing out the other phases?
That's another good question.
That's his argument.
it would be.
That's what he alluded to in the email, that it was his understanding.
And that's a fair argument. You know, if he can prove it to satisfy the plan commission, they could exempt him under this provision because he's already complied or.
But wouldn't there be some recorded documents if that was the case?
There should be, you would think there would be, but again, searching for historical records, I'm at a loss personally.
And this wasn't his plan to begin with. Rolling River Bluff was not his project.
He's purchasing it from the.
So somebody else would have that information.
It'd be that
And whose
LLC.
responsibility is it to come up with that?
The original developer, I believe his name was Sam Beers out of Chicago. I
Wasn't it
believe.
Noble something?
I don't know.
Noble 2 was the next.
Noble
after
2.
Noble
Sam
2,
Beard.
but I think took it from Sam.
But Keith has tried to, I think he's exhausted his resources as well as trying to find, what he can, and he did, produce anything he could find. But it's not complete per se, but it does show intent. It does show section 3 and 4 early on.
And then on Steve's behalf, we started this process of rebuilding the ordinance because the other ordinance was not real good. So that's where this change came from through, I think Stefan started the process. So Steve wouldn't have probably any knowledge of the previous that maybe was in place when that process started, because that was a lot of years ago when that whole process started.
On paper, I love the one you have. In practice, it becomes difficult because it forces a developer to go through the process.
I don't think any developer would come here and look at all this and want to
Put something in.
Yeah.
put
So maybe
that
it's-
much. I think it's a hamstring as much as anything.
Very good. That may then
So-
require it to be tweaked, I suppose, or exemptions
For
applied
what we
for.
currently have? Is that what you're saying? So I'm gonna ask this question, and I probably don't want to hear the answer.
Well, that's part of the discussion.
Do not all communities
It's a great question.
do?
No. So I'll give you an example of different ways to do this that I've seen. One's better than the other. A lot of communities will not utilize because they're small. Most of the small towns that I work with don't have their own subdivision control ordinance at all. They will contract with the county and let the county. So for instance, if you go to LaGrange County, every single one of those towns over there has no subdivision control ordinance. They use LaGrange County Plan Commission, and LaGrange County Plan Commission administers the process. And when your developer comes to Shipshewana or Topeka or to whatever, they got to go through the county. So I'm not saying that's you. Steuben County is the exact opposite. I go to Fremont, they have their own subdivision controllers, they have their own plan commission, they run their own rules just like you do. It is cumbersome for them because they don't have the staff, they don't have the sophistication, they don't have a planner, so they struggle like you do with these type of things. So it all comes down to control. Do you want control over your developers and what they do when they come to town? And do you have the staff and the sophistication and the money to do it? If you don't, then you're more along the lines of LaGrange County. If you do, then you're more along the lines of, City of Angola, which does their own, and they don't deal with the county plan commission over that. It's all every community's different kind of philosophy. It doesn't mean yours is better than them, but it does come down to sophistication, money, knowledge, the staff, and the ability to do this. Because you can have the greatest 150-page ordinance in the world, but if you don't have the people to administer it, it begs the question, why do we have it?
So my comment to that is, and that is my tenure as a council member and my years on the plan commission, I see that as not control, but protection.
Fair.
Because we are cleaning up a lot of problems over and over and over again.
Are you sure on this 90-day waiting period? Because that goes specifically to a denied decision on the map.
Right, that should be specifically, you have 90 days, have to wait before you come back and redo. To my understanding, when we build
Yeah,
it.
that doesn't apply to this.
It shouldn't apply to this if we're on the the first
Right.
path.
Only if it's denied.
Right.
That's the 90-day waiting period. Okay. So we really need to put this ball in the planning commission's court. Is that what you're telling us?
If you want to keep the ordinance,
Which I'm assuming we do.
okay, if you want to keep the ordinance and you want to entertain the idea of exempting,
Exemption, okay?
then yes, but like Steve said, and I agree completely with him, if you're going to do that, you probably ought to give them some indication of what it is you want them to exempt. The whole thing, pieces, because as you read through that 115-page wonderful document, there are a lot of pieces in there that I don't know if Mr. Leatherman has complied with already, is willing to comply with, not willing to comply, but that's where if I'm the plan commission, I'm going to say, okay, council, thanks for bringing it, throwing it in my lap. What do you want me to exempt this developer from?
So what step do we think we're on here?
I don't-
Kurt, you asked that in the email.
Yeah, I don't know.
And we've talked about this and we have this, but what step do we think we're on? And then what are we exempting?
Yeah, those are the ultimate questions right there.
Well, we have our current commission president sitting in the room, and we have our past. And if everybody in this room, I'm sorry, Scott, but you're gonna have the most knowledge. in
And my
history
knowledge of this
anyone.
document, its intent of this document was to put, like you said, most of the authority in the town manager's lap. If something was good enough for the town manager, it made it by that step, is what our intent was.
And there's a lot of language. like
Actually, I
that.
take that back, not zoning administrator, which by the way is the same person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're all experiencing that same feeling right now, which is where are they? Because I don't know. I mean, I could probably kind of figure it out, but it would take forever and a lot of interaction with everybody, but.
I mean, are we on, I would say we're past step 9 because there had to have been a final plat application.
For that particular thing.
if you're doing like Abby said, and you're doing the whole addition, absolutely. But if 3 and 4 is new, you won't be past 7.
I think we're
In my
done with 1
opinion.
and 2. That's my take on it, that we have a final plan on that, and that's a going concern. 1 and 2, water under the bridge, in my opinion.
Keith do this with White Oaks when he did the whole new part of White Oaks.
No,
And all of that was rezoned. That went from,
You have
kind of
page
rezone
for
the
this,
entire
or you
town
just do
unilaterally.
right, but they didn't go through this.
But
Yeah, we did some stuff because he came in and changed lot sizes and,
And which we ran into a roadblock with that too,
uh-huh.
but we squared it away under legal advice with that one.
Well, Scott is digesting that a little bit, and I know we're anxious for him to weigh in. To me, a pivotal point is that Keith has said he's 90% done with the final plat drawings. So they're ready to complete that. So somebody's got to review that. That it's the planning commission.
Right.
So maybe we put him at that stage.
That stage, step 9.
Whatever the step, I don't know.
That'd be step 9.
And then he brings that to plan commission, and then they look at that, in terms of the criteria of what the subdivision control ordinance is looking for in that.
So you want to waive the public hearing?
Well, that's a good question.
Okay.
I was debating that. I didn't know which side to weigh in on that, to be honest with you. So, I mean, if there's well, here's the thing. Let's look at it. The public hearing would serve the purpose of providing notice to, I don't know if it's, like in the other cases, it's 600 feet perimeter of ownership. There's something to be said for that, so that the neighbors know and can weigh in what's going to happen on that section of raw land that's been sitting vacant for, umpteen years that they've lived there. So that would be a respectful thing to keep in the provision and to do it. It's certainly a bit of a, it's a challenge. We've got Steve Hook from the county does a great job working with us to identify. He identifies the perimeter, provides us the list of property owners. We do the mailing. It's kind of a process, but we've done it and can do it. And that would be they're certainly fair and appreciated by those in the neighborhood who want to know.
And it never hurts to provide additional due process.
Are you calling this an appeal by any chance?
I'm not calling it anything, Scott. I appreciate what I was providing was response to the suggestion that we might exempt this developer from the SCO requirements. So I treat it as a modification or exemption under 2.5.
Okay, there is an appeal process that comes to the council.
Yep.
So I guess my question
That's
would
after
be,
he makes a determination of
he would make
wrong.
a determination would that still work for an exemption? Would he make that decision in your opinion?
I don't believe that exempting something from the SCO is within the power of the zoning administrator.
Okay, all right.
I think determining where they are and whether there's compliance, all those kind of things are. Exempting somebody, I don't think under this, now we can make it that way, but we have to amend the ordinance.
Sure. Okay.
When it says primary plat application in step 5, what is that document? Is that what the map is?
Kind of, but with more detail to it.
Okay, and we already have that.
Well, I don't know if you have that per se. Here, did you say primary
Well,
plat
this
or
says
final?
final plat right on
No,
it.
I'm on primary plat.
She's up on
number
5.
Primary, then,
Final plat right on the very
it's
top.
kind of everything that you would think would be in a final plat, but it's subject to change
Right,
for the review.
because that's prior to the public hearing.
So this, what it has, from what I saw, it's got more specific lot lines and designation of utilities.
Okay.
There's actually a whole set of things. It's not even captured, maybe it's in this one here.
Where'd you say he should be, Zane?
This says
9.
final plat right on it,
Here's probably
but
the
it says
frustrating
section
thing.
2 on the
Yeah, but look in the top right.
this.
So this was section 2.
That's on the final plat.
Right, but I'm talking
This has
about
to be
sections
recorded,
3
right?
and 4.
Oh, yeah,
He said they're
You don't have a
90%
final.
done. Right, but I'm talking
What date
about
is
the
that, Zane? What
primary
date?
plat.
Three
That's 3 and 4.
All we have for that is where he's kind of identified the lots, not a lot of specifics, other than there's some specifics on grades.
Okay,
There's a lot of grading information. And then sometimes utility information.
Okay.
So it's
So
a little hit or miss.
can we consider that we have the step 5, the primary plat application or not?
I would say it's a, yes, we could.
Okay,
My
so,
personal
so we would be
opinion.
moving on to a public hearing at the planning commission stage? Is that where the public hearing is done?
I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, I think the public hearing would be to review,
2001.
August 27th.
to review the final plat, which is,
Yeah, this is all plan commissions.
Oh, the public hearing is to review the primary plat.
let's see, primary plat application, but you're, that's correct. But, yeah, that is correct.
Final plat is step 9.
Which that's that.
Is that 3 and 4?
It shows it as an excerpt. 3 and 4.
Let's make a decision and move on to
So
what we're doing with this.
my decision's this, is that if it was already done and everything in 2001, then we shouldn't even be having this conversation about new standards.
Okay.
And a new subdivision control.
Because that
ordinance.
SCO was adopted
Right.
in after that.
Yeah, 2019 or something like that, so.
Okay, so we're basically on step 8 and he's got 90% of step 9 done. Is that where we're at?
That's where I'm at with this.
Okay,
Do you agree or
I
disagree?
can agree with that. Now let's hear from the others.
And when you say that, just so I understand, are you talking 90% of step 9 for phases 3 and 4?
Yes,
Okay.
90% is done, phases 3 and 4, according to his email for the final plat of sections 3 and 4.
Okay.
That is, we haven't seen those, but that's what he stated. Right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
making sure I'm not speaking out the wrong side here. All right, so
would you mind repeat, pardon me, would you repeat what you were crystallizing about the SCO that we would be, were you saying?
the SCO was adopted after this document here, showing sections 3 and 4, even though they didn't develop them. What'd you say the date on that was, in 01?
August
Yeah.
27th, 2001.
Right, and the SCO was adopted after that.
And in effect rendering what? The rendering the
Rendering that this would be a grandfathered in deal.
So I guess legally speaking and not doing this for someone else, as Kurt alluded to, is that this was grandfathered in because this was final plot was in 2001.
Prior to the new standards.
Correct.
Agreed.
And that's nice and clean, what you.
Well, this is
Yeah.
just me and Zane talking here. I mean, there's 5 of us on this
Right.
board.
Well, I'm comfortable with that analogy from the plans commission perspective. How do you feel about that, Corey?
Very fair.
Scott, you're not on it anymore, but
That's exactly what my thought was. It would be well before these rules were in place, and it wouldn't be fair to make them jump through. I wouldn't think, make them jump through twice. Because I know they're not totally consistent with the previous stuff, if there even was one previously. I'm still not sure if we had one prior to this one of any consequence.
If this is the action, ultimately, it would not create any precedent per se. Kurt, jump in anytime on this, because the next developer down the line would not be grandfathered in, and they would have to follow the ordinance from step 1.
I think if you're actually gonna take that position to memorialize it, you don't have to, but if you wanna memorialize it so that for future generations, future developers, and future arguments that people might raise, we would still wanna go through this plan commission process, modification, exception, exemptions, and have them make these findings, and I put together a resolution that's actually required in an ordinance, I guess, where they would actually approve this after a hearing. But like I said, that's up to you. But I don't know that you would have any way to substantiate all of this if 5 years down the road, somebody says, well, I'm not going through that because I didn't have to, because you didn't make this guy go through it. Without a finding, without a formal hearing, without a formal documentation of this process, like I said under 2.5, I don't think you have any protection, because nobody's gonna come back and resurrect this meeting minutes, this meeting discussion, and produce, and no lawyer could ever survive the challenge on that. So I don't know how far you want to go with this, but if you want to substantiate it, you still want to force the process to go through the hearing and have make a determination. It's up to you. Because you're clearly, which is fine, trying to find a way around having this person comply and not having a great degree of documentation that it fits. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that a judge listening to all this without some kind of formal documentation is going to throw it out. So you never get there. It's a risk-benefit analysis, remember, for you to make, not me. I would want findings. I would want a document. I would want a hearing. I would want it to go through the planning commission.
In 10 years.
I don't get to make the decision.
In 10 years, might not be one person still in this room.
In
that
40
can
years, there might
explain.
not be. Right?
That's kind of why we have problems sometimes.
And as you know, I'm a belt and suspenders person, so if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you're asking me my opinion, it's follow the process, use this reason as your finding, and have the plan, recommend to the plan commission they do so. Let them do it.
And it's documentation on the plan commissions
And the
and
council
our,
side,
and
And
what
you
kind
give,
of time, what kind of timeline are we talking about?
well, it's
That
whatever
taking.
it takes to get in front of the plan commission in a hearing, and yeah, I mean, you tell me, that's what is that? A couple, 3 months?
A plan commission?
Yeah, to have a formal hearing and get all
Plan
the,
commission, they-
no, not really?
No, I don't think it's that long.
Okay. I don't know.
Is there any reason why process can't continue on their end in the meantime?
No, absolutely not. They would take it, based on, so let's
Oh,
just.
I mean the contract.
Right, they would be taking some degree of risk because they are not in compliance at this point, but you're gonna give them a motion in theory tonight that would recommend that they exempt them and have the plan commission grant the exemption. So for that little period of time where it's uncertain, I guess they have a little bit of risk. Because at some point, what are they looking for from you? Meaning you, the town. What does the developer need from you? Do they need a permit? What do they need to get to the next stage in their world?
They want us to agree to
Pay for
split the
stuff.
paving of 6615, but that is after section 3 is completed, according to this email.
And I've already been in touch, they contacted me, the son of Bob Parrish, I forget his first name. But he's already looking at wanting to do the first spec home there. So likely that they're probably thinking, okay, he's gonna apply for a permit at some point so he can start pounding nails. But
So they're gonna need a recorded plat that's signed by plan commission and you in order to use the town, right? I mean, that's what they're looking for, right? A final plat
I
signed.
think his name's Derek.
Kyle.
Kyle, that's his name, Kyle.
Personally, I'd really like it to be cleaned up. For the
I
plan
just want to
commission as
move
well as-
on and get some housing.
I know. I
You know what I
do, but-
mean?
But I would prefer to do that if we can keep,
Says the
The
existing
contractor
streets in
moving.
section 1 and section 2 were never put in the town's name. They're still in Noble 2 Incorporated's name.
Well, if you exempt them from this, you won't be able to enforce any of those things, right? That's the whole point of the subdivision control ordinance, to enforce the developer to do all that stuff. If you're gonna exempt them under the theory that it didn't apply, well, you can't hold their feet to any of those.
Well, so you want to go back to the step for the hearing, is that what you're saying?
Me,
That's what you're saying for documentation?
I'm saying if you're gonna exempt them from subdivision control under the theory that it was adopted after they started this process, and it's somehow grandfathered, then to do that, you should go through the section 2.5 of the SCO to follow that process. That's what I'm saying.
What's 2.5?
That's when I sent you the email, that's the part of the section in the subdivision control orders that outlines the process.
You know what page that is by any chance?
No,
Okay.
it's section 2.5, it's entitled modifications.
Yeah. I'll just look
I
at
didn't
it.
print the whole thing. But while you're looking, remember, and again, it's on you, not me. If you exempt this developer from these requirements, you can't then come back later and say, well, I want this or I want that, because you've exempted them. What gives you the power to tell them you want stuff from them so that they don't leave you with a development that's got no, properly spec'd out sewer, water easements and lines and right-of-ways and all the things that go along with the development, is the subdivision control orders. If you exempt them from that, you have no ability to tell them you want this to be done and no ability to go back on them later if they don't do it. That's your hammer. But if you're not worried about it, then yeah, exempt them from it. But if it's a blanket exemption, then you can't come back later to me and say, well, how come we can't have why don't we have any authority to get an easement from this person, or a right-of-way, or a dedication, or a legal description, or whatever. This subdivision control order is artfully and wonderfully drafted, gives you all that power. Once you take that power away, now it's just goodwill and hope that they do what you want them to do.
Anybody have the date on the email with the section 2.5 in it?
Yeah, it's April 12th at 10:38 a.m.
April 12th.
He's exactly right.
Can the final plat be subject to plan commission just like the preliminary plat? Now, normally it's preliminary plat comes before the plan commission almost simultaneously, but the hearing precedes it, and so that they get comments on that primary, and then plan commission looks at it the same night and says, aha, yeah, we like what the objections we've heard, and they say modify it these 3 ways. Then the developer goes through the process, and they're going to come back now with, it says step 8 and 9, construction plans, submittal and approval, step 8, and then step 9, final plat application.
Yes, and remember, during that process, the whole point of doing those things is so that you can have your engineer, if you want them to, look at it. I've quite frankly never been in a setting where a large development where they've approved a plat that has sewer, water, roads, infrastructure has not been reviewed and approved by the engineer for the town first. So the whole process is to allow your town engineer to look at all this stuff, because I don't know anything about it. You guys don't know anything about it. I guess we can rely on Terry and Corey back there for some of this, but I'm assuming, I've never seen a full-fledged development plat not have review and approval by the town engineer. So that whole process is so that you have somebody who can look at this that understands that, and tell you whether or not this meets your specs and is adequate.
Right.
So that's where we need to go back, is we need to go to the public hearing section at the planning commission level to have the findings of fact.
If you're wanting to exempt them. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do.
I'm not saying exempting, I'm saying that they could do their findings of fact.
That, if you're looking at that email I sent you, that's all about how to exempt them from the ordinance. That's the process in that 115-page ordinance that says, how do you exempt somebody from it?
No, I'm talking about making them do the modification section and have it recorded in the minutes.
But that exempts them from subdivision control.
So where are you saying that we need to go for the documentation that Vicky wants?
If you want to exempt them from all of the requirements
No, let's say not.
well, then they got to comply with subdivision control.
Did they say that if they have to comply with any part of the SCO that they would not be interested in pursuing the division?
Not in so many words, but it was, so yeah, it's kind of a gradient. Who knows at what point they're gonna say, whoa, this is too much. So, you know, I think Keith is thinking, let them complete the 10% left of the final plat and, you know, submit that. That's why I'm wondering if that could be, whether we call it a final plat at that point, or maybe that's the preliminary, but that it could go under plan commission purview to weigh in. But to Kurt's point, if we haven't had technical review of it, it's a little bit of missing the point of the, you know, of the subdivision ordinance.
Have they ever seen a copy of the SCO? Have they read it?
That I don't know. I think when I, you know, mentioned to Keith that this would have to be, you know, discussed a little bit tonight, that's when he kind of raised the concern in a very, you know, nice way. He's not in any way animated. He's just being very forthright and saying they didn't anticipate a lot of administrative type, you know, it's probably subdivision control ordinance issues moving forward, because they want to move forward with the ASAP.
Should we supply them with a copy of the SCO? And let them make a decision?
It's online.
Is it online?
That's where I'm getting.
That's where I got mine too.
Yeah.
But probably.
I think before they say, you know, if I'm the contractor and I make a statement to you that if I have to comply with the SCO, I'm not doing it. But yet I've never read the SCO. I have no idea what's in the SCO. How can you make that choice? You know what I mean? I think the contractor or contractors need to be supplied a copy of the SCO. That way they can say, okay, I don't like this part. They can make up maybe a list of things that they're concerned about in the subdivision control ordinance. And then they can highlight those and bring us back to us, and we can see whether we can.
And that's exactly what 2.5 says. It
Yeah.
says it's their job to basically point out the areas they want to be exempted from.
I'm sure if they've never seen it, they don't know.
But Kurt, there's on subsection D, which I know you don't have a copy of it, there's 6 areas that provisions and arrangements has been made
For ingress and
concerning.
egress, automotive,
Yes,
domestic traffic,
that one.
off-street and on-street parking, utilities, clear identification of property for land records, screening and buffering.
That
Yes.
one, yeah.
I've given that to the council and
Okay.
basically told them that those are the 6 items that Plan Commission has to, if they force them to go through this exemption process, they still have to sign off on those.
Okay,
That's right.
okay.
But I don't know how they do that without technical review and an engineer, unless these guys are comfortable. I don't know. I've never had the luxury of being in a town where the superintendent of utilities signs off on easements and utilities and specifications for roads and streets, and that's usually done by an engineer, but maybe you do it differently. And I don't care how you do it, I'm just saying.
I think they need to review the SCO. They need to come back to maybe you and say, hey, this is what we don't agree with or whatever. Because this is all a moot point if they decide that complying with an SCO to do what they're gonna do, we're just not gonna do it. And then everything becomes a moot point and we're done, other than fixing the roads out there.
It is moot unless you are okay with them not complying and just building houses, as Chris said. If you don't care that they build the roads right, you don't care where they put the sewer lines, the water lines, how they're done, what the specs are, you just want to build houses, then exempt them.
I'm not saying I don't care about that. I'm just saying that I agreed with Zane
that all this stuff was done prior to us even implementing an SCO.
So could we, I think that if we take that approach that you mentioned, Daryl, that it's going to scare Keith off again. And I think we want to take the come along strategy as the town because we see value in the proposal that they've set in place. We don't have all of the documentation that we need, but could we make a recommendation to the plan commission that we see that we are at step 9, that they need to comply with that section D. So we would have a public hearing. They would bring that before the plan commission and satisfy all of those expectations. And then it has to be signed off on so that we're not sending them back. I think if you just give them the SEO and they think they have to go from step 1 on, it's going to be overwhelming. But we can walk them through this as a team with our plan commission, but still satisfy it, I think, in a manner that would make sure that we're covering what we can. And because I mean, you know, Keith has been in conversations with us for a while and there's been a lot of back and forth, and I know he expressed frustration, and there's been other talk in the community about frustration with us holding back on housing, and I don't think we want that perception either because we all want this to move forward. So, I mean, fully grandfathering them in, it sounds like is not the right route, but I don't think we want to. I mean, if he does have 90% of that done, could we recognize that as we're starting at step 9, but we do want a public hearing and all of these points to
At
be
least a
satisfied?
public hearing.
Were there 6 points on there?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea, Abby.
Vicki and
Scott?
Scott, do you think
What
that
were
would
you thinking?
satisfy the?
Yeah, that is, just to
Instead of
answer
SEO.
Kurt's question, the document was designed to make our in-house staff involved in the process. Now, are they engineer quality? I don't know what quality of an engineer is, but that would include street department for street department stuff, water for water department stuff, because they're employed here and we know what they expect, but a builder might not. So that's why it reads them and engineers. We would get an engineer if it came to that level, but these guys were to be looking, or all of our in-house staff was to be looking over the shoulder during this process. That's why it's written the way it is, to my understanding of the document.
Which would make sense, and I guess if I'm the plan commission, they're not here, but I would ask them at the hearing, who's gonna tell us 1 through 6? Is it gonna be these guys?
Well, that's the way it was designed, so whether that's the way it is now or not, I don't know.
Because if they grant the exemption, and if your recommendation is to include items 1 through 6, somebody's gonna have to get them educated on what that looks like in a document. And that sounds like work to me, and it's beyond my competency.
We went through a modified approach of the findings of fact, or we went through findings of fact that was not in the exact context of the subdivision control ordinance per se. It's kind of in the zoning ordinance, and like with the Albion Church and with the, where we assembled staff, we did the site plan review by staff. And then that was conveyed to, I forgot if it was BZA in that instance or Plan Commission on the Albion. Maybe they were both involved at different levels because it was a rezoning. But they looked at everything, staff kind of went through everything, then they went through it, and it was a bit of a generalized review of each area that, and the Albion Church, Apostolic Church, really, so they had an engineer involved. It was very, very comprehensive, the approach they took to satisfy, drainage requirements and and so forth and so on. It was just one building on a raw land site, but that went through similar steps as what the subdivision control ordinance requires a housing development to go through. So in that instance, they had an engineer and we just kind of reviewed it, kind of relied on the integrity of the developer's engineer. Then in the school barn as well, we went through the very similar approach where they had an engineer as well, presented all kinds of aspects. And in both instances, we had the county engineer, pardon?
County surveyor.
Thank you. County surveyor Randy Sexton for the drainage aspect, get very much hands-on involved. So we didn't have to hire our own engineer per se, but that's how those two processes worked. How it would work here, it may be the same. I guess we would see what would be put in our hands. And this would be called a major subdivision. We haven't dealt with one of those recently.
Well, I guess just for the record, I would tell you that our recommendation would be to never approve a major subdivision without your engineer, not somebody else's engineer, reviewing it. Yeah, I think to answer your questions, if you're wanting to set the stage for the planning commission to say these people are at stage whatever, and you want to recommend that the planning commission hold a hearing and make findings and determinations under this section 2.5 to exempt this developer from anything prior to that, if that's what you're wanting to do, you can make that recommendation and it'll be subject to the process which you have in front of you, if you want to do it that way. If you don't, in the end, like I said, it's up to you. It's a risk-benefit analysis.
Zane, what do you think?
I already stated what I think.
Yes. Bring it down.
What I'm hearing is, using Kurt's language, the benefits of the subdivision here seems to be greater than the risk of pushing it away. What's a saying? No gain, no.
No harm, no foul.
No pain, no
No
gain.
pain, no gain. What do you have?
No pain, no gain.
What do you say?
Anyway.
So Abby, your suggestion is to have the public hearing, is that what you're stating?
That we make a recommendation to the plan commission to hold the hearing and, as Kurt said, make the findings and hold them to section 2.5, the 6 points, but in recognition of the date when the SEO was adopted and the date when they originally started this development, that we would grandfather in the portion that leading up to section 9. But if we don't have all of those details, then I guess that puts the burden on Steve and our
Can you tell me the 6 points again? One was buffering.
Ingress, egress is number one.
Ingress, won't those already be on the?
Well, I can give you the full one if you'd like. I was giving the Cliff Note version. But ingress and egress to the property and proposed structures thereon with particular reference to automotive and pedestrian safety, convenience, and access in case of fire or catastrophe.
You're talking like sidewalks?
That's got a little bit of everything.
This is, by the way, this is your language, not mine. I'm just regurgitating.
Give me the rest of
It
them.
was reviewed by a lawyer.
Number 2 is automotive and pedestrian traffic flow.
Okay, next.
Off-street and on-street parking and loading areas.
Okay.
Number 4 is utilities with reference to locations, availability, and compatibility. Number 5 is clear identification of property for land records.
Okay.
6 is the screening and buffering with reference to type, dimension, and character of the material.
So those things would still be required.
Says shall, but
I dare say, I mean, I think they're gonna have most, if not all those covered.
That's what I think.
That's what I'm thinking too.
And some of it may not require engineering level of criteria and review, where it's just you look at it and you know, like the ingress egress. You're looking at what we have already, and well, we know there's only one way in and out of that subdivision. But, you know, is there some circular flow of the streets? And, you know, we would look at it, and it either is it an issue or not. The entrance of the street is, the sign is an issue, that's already been addressed, we're gonna remove that.
We're gonna remove that. All right, so we absolutely have to move on, so we gotta come up with a plan.
Well, and unfortunately, this isn't even the main questions that the council's playing the role with, which is, are we all in agreement to split the cost of paving the road?
I am.
Okay. Second one, are we all in agreement with all 4 points of Keith's demands?
I thought he only had 2.
Well, the fourth one's kind of vague.
Yeah,
So
I'm not
that's what I'm
comfortable
saying.
with the fourth one.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us what that is? Because I only came up with 2.
So provide legal descriptions of the easements, maintain the roads, split the cost of the entrance, replace and improve the streetlights. So those are the 4 that I'm okay with. Sorry. The fifth
Yeah,
one
sorry.
is share infrastructure, cost share infrastructure for section 4.
Right, which we don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even know what that
Right,
is.
but that's fine. We have to state that we're not in agreement with those 5 conditions to keep, because that's what he's asking of the council.
And the streetlights have already been taken care of.
Yeah. So anyways, it's number 5 that I'm not okay with. It's too open-ended, and I told Keith that in the housing committee. I said, Keith, you're a businessman. I don't think you would enter a business agreement without knowing what exactly you're entering.
Aren't the easements on the plat,
There's a few that's on the plat.
but not all of them?
I don't think after Terry provided that sketch of where everything's at, I don't think that's an issue.
So the only thing really that is in question is splitting the infrastructure in section 4, which we absolutely cannot commit to.
So, and again, that goes back to when I asked Keith, if the council agrees to this, we have to agree to all 5 demands, or is this where we're okay with 4 out of the 5? So, I'm not okay with agreeing to number 5 without knowing what it entails.
I'm not okay with it either.
And was he not okay with then developing section 3 and then revisiting? I forget. I thought
And
He
then,
didn't say it specifically, so I don't want to put words in
Yeah.
his mouth, but he seemed amicable towards that
that's what I
thought.
thought, yeah.
That sounds very reasonable to me, what you're suggesting, and I think, you know, he's gonna be amenable, because section 4, he doesn't know the costs, and he'll cross that bridge when he gets there. He still wants to do section 3, so.
I think everybody wants to do section 3. I mean, that's the crutch of the whole project, is getting the roads fixed, getting section 3 done, and seeing how that goes.
Yeah.
Before everybody bites off section 4.
Right, that's 11 houses. That's not gonna go up overnight.
I think his timeline's a little skewed to be done with 11 houses by end of construction season in 2026.
Yeah.
Because they not only have to go up, they have to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, quite honestly.
All the houses in Village of White Oaks are, the ones that were built are sold. They still have lots for sale out there.
Maybe. Just rough guess.
Anyway, Vicky, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, but we absolutely have to move on. So,
I ate before I came, I'd stay around.
I'm not.
I didn't either.
So,
Is there was kind of you're maybe suggesting a motion, or that you outlined a motion.
I think we're all okay with 4 of the 5 key points, right?
Yeah,
We're just not okay with splitting the infrastructure on section 4, because we have no clue of what it is.
It's not,
or
it shouldn't be a deal
Or
breaker.
what year it would even start.
So we're okay with the first 4 points.
We're okay with that.
And it
Right,
sounds like we're okay with those 4 points, and it needs to go to the planning commission. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep,
To do the little 6 things.
how about the public hearing? What
The
do we
planning
got?
commission decided that.
Is the public hearing, does the public hearing happen at the same time that these 6 points get addressed at the planning commission?
According to 2.5, it's supposed to.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
simultaneous, right?
So did you get that?
Yeah, it would be nice to have a
So,
summary of sorts of the motion, so we don't get it wrong. And the twofold motion: one, we accept his proposal, first 4 points, not point number 5. That's kind of clear enough to me, but I think maybe.
Would it be better advised that you convey the sentiments of the council to Keith, and then we vote on that proposal at the next meeting?
In case he doesn't like it.
Yeah, like, would be my, and then it still has to go to the planning commission, so we're not losing time essentially by doing that.
the agenda deadline for the plan commission will be coming up fairly quickly because they meet the first Wednesday of the month.
And sometimes, I mean, we can, I think, show some flexibility with certain deadlines if it's not a whole lot of voluminous stuff that they're going to be reviewing. Now, if it involves a hearing, that's another question, because I forget if it's a 2 or 3 week prior publication date required.
And they could, if they wanted, have a special meeting just for that purpose. I don't know if they want.
I think he'd have to initially go to them. We wouldn't just start out with our very first meeting of this being a public hearing, would we? Without any discussion with him or anything?
Legally, you could.
Okay,
Practically, that's up to whether you want to.
that's kind of like throwing the
I
plan
know if I
commission
were
to the
them, I would be,
wolves. Good
what are you
grief.
throwing at me? But you can do it legally, yes.
Planning commission, public hearing.
The public hearing at the planning commission.
Well,
The planning commission only meets once a month.
That's what
Well,
I'm
we
saying.
can meet, we can have special meetings. But typically, we like that to be on our terms, not the contract. If contractors and people miss their deadline and expect us
Right.
to set special dates, that's unfair to the people that are serving in those positions.
But the planning
But it's a-
commission meeting is 3 weeks from tomorrow.
So they can-
Unfortunately, I keep going back to the information that we received, and we were point blank told he was not interested in administrative.
Right,
have
I
it
read
in
that.
front of me.
Right.
I think he would have walked out of this room an hour ago, and I hate to say that out loud, but that's a fact.
I think that
And
was,
we
were going a little bit.
take the blunt of that because we need housing, but we also have to protect and do our due diligence as council members to protect the tax dollars and the building and all that. So how do we do all of it and succeed with housing? We're in a tough place. We do have other people that are interested in building, and we're gonna have to hold them to the same accountability as anyone else. They're gonna have to go through the plan commission, all that's gonna have to be on the up and up. I don't have the answer, but we are in a tough place.
So 3 weeks till the next planning commission meeting, what would they need? What documentation would they need? These 6 items right here to review? Correct?
The other question for planning commission consideration would be, if that plat's gonna be done, the final plat.
Well, that's what I mean.
So,
Wouldn't these
yeah.
items be on the final plat?
It should be, and that's where you should be able to look at the final plat and go, oh, yes, this checks, this checks.
Usually, developers, engineer will go through the subdivision controllers, they'll click off all the things they need to do, and they will initiate the process to the plan commission to get their approval. They don't rely on you to do all the work for them. It's really unusual. It's okay that you're.
Where are we at with the final plat?
90% complete, according to the
What are we
email,
waiting on?
10%.
That'd be better for the.
I think you want somebody to.
Dude,
Could
I
somebody
don't know, I
document
haven't seen it.
I went to Central Oval,
Hey, I can be a smart
You have
ass.
it over same night.
I usually am.
What physical documents are we missing in that 10%?
That I don't know, but only Keith does in his group, but the plan commission would need to see that at the hearing. We're almost, I hate to use the terminology, I mean, we're almost treating it as the primary plat, because it's kind of the first, thing we've seen in its entirety.
So Keith is
With three.
telling you that he's got 90% of it done?
Correct, he has told us at the ad hoc housing committee meeting, and he may have said that in writing as well. It's certainly in the summary that,
So your
in the conversation.
communication with Keith might be, how long until the remaining 10% is done? So that they had a final plat to review, to look at? We need to know that. And then you need to convey to Keith that we agree to 4 of the 5 points. The 5th point, we do not agree to at this time. It's too far out in the future.
So I found the email I've been looking for. And these are Keith's words summarized by Steve, but Steve's usually pretty spot on. And it says he's asked that we pass it along. He's hoping for a simplified approach. And let me see what it says. He indicates that any significant administrative hurdles were not contemplated and are likely to push both he and Bob out of continuing.
And you have 2 ways you can deal with that, to make those administrative hurdles go away. 1, exempt them out formally, or 2, repeal the ordinance. Or 3, ignore the ordinance, which is not an option that I would recommend.
Well, or we're advancing him in the
Yeah, you make the determination that he's
process.
complied somehow. Yeah.
I don't even feel the way that the SEO is set up, that the council has that authority. The planning commission has that authority.
First the zoning administrator, then the planning commission, you're right.
So, like, we're talking about this, and I feel like unless we want to change the SEO.
Did you and him have any conversation whatsoever about bringing the plan commission into the mix of all this?
Well, yes, to the degree that I said that it would involve going through the subdivision control ordinance that, requires the planning commission.
And was he okay with that?
It's hard to, it's not like we had a specific, type of conversation. It was a little bit, about all the issues. He was just reacting, and it was a generalized statement that he doesn't want They weren't in this for any hurdles administratively. He didn't say specifically what a hurdle was. I think what you're trying to do here though, he wants to complete that plat, 10% left. So that can be the document that the criteria that the plan commission uses to assess the findings.
I agree. I mean, you have to have it. So,
Yeah.
And he knows that.
Yes, it's gotta be there.
And so,
And somebody's gotta scrutinize it, and legally it's to be the plan commission. The whole hearing aspect seems to be a bit thrown in. That takes a little bit, the most time, I would say.
okay, so
But I think that's very important to the property owners. We had a hearing, the plan commission, and listened to several people from the Village of White Oaks came when we were talking about the last phase that's being done out there.
Phase 3.
And people came, and
But their concerns were much different.
hands up.
At least I thought they were. They thought they
and
were.
I think we've got a great compromise opportunity by the grandfathering.
Well, I'm hearing two things. Grandfathering is one option, or another ways it's being kind of poo-pooed a bit. But the council here could be saying, because Zane just brought up the point, this is kind of under plan commission purview, and we're kind of throwing a lot of monkey wrenches. What if the council just recommends this to the plan commission? We recommend that the developer, that he has, you call it grandfathered, or that, if you want to do that, he's fulfilled a lot of these stages. We recommend that you have a public hearing to review his final plat, which is 10% near completion, and that you do the findings, our attorney advises you do the findings of fact, and that we would suggest that therefore, this is somewhere in, I don't know if it's 8 or 9, or 8, 9, or 10, that let the plan commission maybe figure out what the process is after that. But that council's recommending a public hearing over, not going back in time to the preliminary, that's kind of water under the bridge. Public hearing on the final plat for this extension of the development, Rolling River Bluffs, sections 3 and 4. And then Keith will know, okay, he's got to complete it. And then it'll be plan commission, but approving the process, because then I got to go through the steps of doing the advertisement, the mailing. It's maybe it's a 3-week process. I forget the exact time frame of how soon the ad's got to be before the hearing. But it kind of puts it in their court, and you would then express your intent, which is kind of what Kurt said early on. The council could recommend to plan commission how to approach this.
I think getting the final plat, moving it to the plan commission is moving the ball forward.
Yes. Yeah, it really
And
is.
you gotta have that final plat.
And the hearing sounds like you're pretty strong of the value of that, and therefore you would recommend that happen. At the same meeting, the plan hears does the finding of facts on the final plat.
Don't they have to move to have a hearing?
The plan commission? Yeah, somehow or other, they have to how do they set their agenda?
It's kind of through me typically, and then in consultation with the president.
Okay, so
of the
probably
commission.
the zoning administrator, Steve, can set their agenda and publish a notice and everything and get the hearing set. If that's okay with the plan commission, maybe the plan commission would prefer to understand why they're having it first. I don't know, that's a practical issue, but yeah, Matt, I do think that Steve as zoning administrator can set their agenda.
I think we're putting in the plan commission in a very difficult position for them, they know nothing about this, for them to find out at the same meeting that there potentially could be a room full of people for the public hearing, but.
Well, they can have their public hearing after they receive the final plat. And they can review that and make their decision, then they can have a public hearing.
Right, but I thought we were saying time was of the essence. I don't know how we can have all that in
Correct, yeah, I mean,
in one meeting.
No, I
right.
don't think I think you'd have to have a special meeting instead of waiting till the first Monday of June.
Well, and would you want, we could do the special meeting like ASAP to say, here's what the council has recommended. And then they would say, okay, yeah, we're on board, let's do the hearing and, we'll authorize the.
Right, but you don't have the plat.
Yeah, you need the final plat to do a meeting.
That puts the ball in
Make
his
it
I
court.
wouldn't even push it to the plan commission until you physically have the final plat.
Okay, so so.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, so in other words, I'll let Keith know as you kind of summarize, Daryl. Here's the council's intent. It would be nice to have it in a motion so that it's something official and in the minutes that the council approves this 4 points of the proposal, not point number 5. And that it recommends that this go to a public hearing, and that a public hearing be held when the developer completes his final plat for review by plan commission of the findings of fact. And then I would tell Keith that's what the intent of the council is, that they're going to recommend this to plan commission, but that ultimately you're going to need to complete the plat. Give us an indication that you're heading that direction before I start scheduling all this. We have a plan commission meeting and then schedule a hearing, and we might have 2 special meetings if time is that much of the essence. If not, it would be a regular plan commission meeting. Then they would say, we'll do, they'll determine if they want to do a special meeting or just a regular meeting to do the public hearing, which we'd be looking at May and June. Or we could be looking at, really getting it all resolved in May, if they'll do 2 special meetings to get the show on the road. And this is all subject to Keith saying, yeah, okay, I'd like the intent where this is going. I'll finish the plat, final plat.
You're wanting a motion with all that.
Or you could say, so moved, and then it's up to me to put it in writing for Carol, or we'll put our heads together. But.
I'll try. I move that we accept and approve the Rolling River Bluffs proposal from Keith Leatherman with points 1 through 4, and deny point 5 to be moved to a later date. And we make the recommendation that the plan commission requires the final plat and then holds a public hearing and fact finding to determine that all of the points in section 2.5 are satisfied to move forward with the project.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, Abby. So the planning commission is gonna meet, and then the special the hearing would be after, public hearing would be after that. I'm seconding.
Okay, any comments or questions? I have one comment. Remember, we have to be careful on our boards and commissions. We're not telling them what to do. We are making
Absolutely.
suggestions, but we've had some problems before. So that's just a little reminder. But yeah, they're going to appreciate the direction, but we're going to let them do their job from that. Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Please let us know the response that you received from that.
Thank you, I will.
On to item number 2, consideration of the proposal for, number 3, approval for tax abatement compliance forms. Tonight, we have consideration of the CF1 forms for tax abatements. I'm going to ask Steve to briefly report on those. I know the tax committee, abatement committee, Zane, Daryl, and Steve met, and so we'll get their overview and recommendation, please.
Zane, did you want me to update then on this topic?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
You can or I can.
So we met and we looked at the total of 6 abatement requests from 4 different projects. And these were the same as, virtually the same companies as last year. All the projects were the same, except one was a new one. B&J Specialty had one drop off last year, and then they had submitted a new one. The same, actually, a new piece of equipment was bought, the same as the other 4 that they had bought in previous years. So it's virtually the same identical information requests, and the CF1 is the annual form that each company gives for the duration of the tax abatement terms that they've been initially approved for. And so this is something the council will see annually. Kurt explained to us recently that while we originally thought the SB1 form, which is the initial tax abatement form that a company applies for, was done simultaneously by resolution of both the RDC and the council, Kurt's informed us that there was a law that changed things, and it's just the town council that does both. The initial SB1 application approval by resolution, and then the ongoing CF1 annual requests by council approval by motion of the council. That's what's before you tonight, a motion requested to approve, this is a recommendation of the RDC committee to approve the 6 requested CF1 forms of the 4 companies, which are Northridge Village, B&J Specialty, Robert Bosch, and Parker Hannafin Corporation.
I'm gonna move we approve the CF1s.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I abstain. On the Bosch CF1 only. I don't know if I can do that or not.
Yeah, it'll just show us you abstaining on the vote, so it's okay. You did the right thing.
Okay.
Okay, on to the next item. Consideration of repealing the Roberts Rules of Order at council meetings. Ordinance number 2026-06. Where are we at on this? Because
I think we're ready to make, have we already done one reading, or we requested
we
it?
keep tabling it.
No, we requested it to be sent to Carol to be put on
Oh,
paper.
okay. And we've got that right there in front of us.
Yeah. So that's where we are. It's an ordinance. So, do you want, is there any discussion, or are we just doing first reading?
Well, while we're waiting for Zane to come back in, does anybody have any discussion, any concerns?
No?
I don't have any questions.
While we're waiting for Zane, these 6 points here, Steve, that we were talking about the buffering and ingress, egress, and all these things that the planning commission has to do a findings of fact on, are we gonna have to make up a form?
I have it, we used it before, I have, if not a form, it's something that they can follow and, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Is
so
it
I'll
some-
provide that to them.
Is it something that you typed up, or is it something?
I believe it is, yeah,
Okay.
and if not, I will, but no, we used it for both, other projects, 'cause
For the, like, the church?
as you were reading it, I recall it's
It
exactly what we
lays on the
did.
table and it's there when everybody comes in, so they've got it
Okay.
to follow along with.
Say we're doing the Robert's Rules of Order, and now's your chance to say anything before I.
No comments.
No comment. So I'm gonna move to approve ordinance 2026-06 on its first reading. Actually, should I cause you to read it?
No, you don't have to do any
I'm
of
just
that.
gonna say I'm gonna cause it to be approved on its first reading. So I would have to have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
And then if you have a choice, which is to ask for a motion to waive the second reading, which can only be done unanimously. Doesn't mean that anybody voting against it can't vote in favor of not having another reading, or you wait and have it at the next meeting.
Yeah, I want to hear Abby and Zane's reason for voting no.
I don't think we have to give that.
Okay,
I already sent mine by email.
okay, all right. I think that I'm not gonna do the waiver.
You'll have it at your next meeting now.
Okay. On to approval of public records request form. We got a current email from today on that,
I can open the topic if you'd
Yep.
like, Vicki.
please.
There was, Kurt had recommended a form that was perhaps different than the form and or process we had been utilizing. And he proceeded in drafting a form, and it seemed like a very good form. I made a couple of recommendations to revise it, and Kurt liked most of what I recommended. There was one item, and so he commented on that, saying one thing we don't want to probably put in that form. And then I looked at all of his revised recommendations, and I agreed with it and summarized that to the council just today in response to Kurt's revised recommendation. And so basically, his recommendation was his revised one. He revised the public records request form. I'm good with that, I said. He then suggested we document the date and start time, end time of any in-person records review that would occur, and I was fine with that. He then said, he says, have the town manager draft an outline bullet point, a document of the deadlines and useful guidelines that would then be submitted to the town attorney for review and approval. And I agree with that as well. And then finally, Kurt made a point that, the town can send requests for info or records requests to his office, or it can handle it in-house and then deal with any potential issues that arise from those in-house handlings to him. And then I just commented that I think the two-prong approach is fine. It's a good one. We are, we believe, capable of handling most singular topic, straightforward requests for info or records, and they represent minimal legal risk, especially if we produce the requested items. And a lot of times these requests occur informally from citizens outside the formal APRA process, the public information request process. And I believe our staff does that. This is fine. It's part of our job. We regularly provide public info upon request without any big fanfare attached to those requests. However, and then to kind of Kurt's point, there are gonna be occasional multi-topic and very detailed requests that could involve diverse layers of info and departments requesting historical records in particular that seem to be our biggest challenge. And I think we'll be able to recognize those more complicated and perhaps sometimes unreasonable requests that should immediately go to the town attorney for review, whom then can either offer us as staff response advice, or he may say this warrants a direct legal reply from his office. So that's what we've got before us. I guess I don't know what's needed. Council will say yes, no, or maybe.
I mean, we don't have the final thing, right? All we have is the red highlighted thing.
You have the final.
It's final,
You
yeah.
have it.
Okay, you do have it, okay,
You
gotcha.
all have it.
Okay.
The only change was adding the email.
Right.
Okay. I don't have any problem.
No objections.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the public records request form.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any other new business to come before council? Okay, approval of accounts payable and payroll vouchers as of April 2nd and April 14th. Are there any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval of those as well.
Make a motion, we approve the accounts payable and payroll vouchers for April 2nd, April 14th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.